Hello everyone, Cheryl Akle. This is a very special occasion. We have Geraldine Brooks in the office live. Geraldine, would you like to say hello to our readers?
G'day, readers.
You're going to say g'day. So usually, Geraldine, we have a segment tonight at 8 o'clock, but we've brought it forward for you. What we're going to do is this segment, we're going to be talking to Geraldine. Her and I will be having a conversation, but we will be also taking questions from people at home. I've got a few questions that people have sent us earlier. But firstly, I want to start hi, Christine. Hi, I want to start on the body of work. This is only a sample of what Geraldine has written. And I'll just hold that up. And we're here today to talk about horse. But also March, which matches my dress, won the Pulitzer Prize. I want to talk about that, what it was like to have won the Pulitzer Prize. What did that feel like?
It felt fabulous. As one of my friends said who ran into me right afterwards, that doesn't suck. No, that was great. But, what was extraordinary about it was that it was so completely unexpected because it's something you fantasize about as a journalist, which I was for many years, but you'd have to be a maniac to fantasize about getting for your novel. So I got the call. I had a fellowship at Harvard that year, and I'd taken a day off to be with my son, who was about 8 or 9 at the time, and he was on his school holidays, and we'd been painting these little figurines, these fantasy figurines that he was interested in. And a couple of seconds after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone rang. I picked it up, and I've got this wet figurine in one hand and the phone in the other. And it's my old editor from the Wall Street Journal, and he's saying, "This is so great, this is fantastic." And this is a guy who likes a long lunch. So I'm thinking, Ken's been, on the trunk.
He's been drinking.
Yeah. And so I said, well, he said, you don't know you've won the Pulitzer Prize. And I said, don't be ridiculous. I can't have won the Pulitzer Prize. I haven't done any reporting. And I hung up on him, basically. And then immediately the phone rang again. And then I realized, at first I still thought it was a mistake because March came out the same year that E.L. Doctorow wrote a book called The March. And it seemed much more likely that E.L. Doctorow would get the Pulitzer
You thought they were
Prize
mixed up.
than me.
You thought they were mixed up. They rang the wrong person.
Yeah, and it wasn't them. They never tell you. They just put it out on the wire. So it was just friends.
Oh, is that right?
Mainly journalist friends who got the word because they're, sitting there waiting for it. Anyway, then the next thing, there's a ring at the doorbell, and I've got, the phone going, and so my son answers the door, and I hear him saying, "Oh, Mum can't come right now. She's so busy. She just got the Pulitzer Prize."
Well, that's true, actually. The Pulitzer Prize. It was a surprise. Okay, so there's a few comments here. People saying hello to both of us. Christine, Carol, and Jane was saying how wonderful. Jill says, hello, ladies. So excited to meet you both. Janine says, I'm excited to share this with you today, Lee says. Vivian says, I've been so looking forward to this. Love your books, Geraldine. Horse is waiting for me at the library. She's reserved it. And Horse is Geraldine's latest book. But I've got a few questions that came in earlier. Emma, one of our readers, asked, what is the favourite sentence you've written?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Goodness me. I think I really need to give this a bit of thought, but off the top of my head, and I can't even quote it, but it's to do with, it's from Caleb's Crossing, and it's where Bethia is trying to pray, but she's not getting anywhere, and it's she says it's like the leaves on the last leaves on the beech tree, they're rattling around, but the wind won't carry them up into the sky, something like that. But that's a pathetic answer. I'll have to do better on that.
No, but that's really quite beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you for a really interesting question.
Pauline says, do you miss living in Australia?
Oh, yes. I will say that I do miss it very, very much. And, and I say that very grateful for the beautiful place that I do live. I've got so much to be thankful for there. It is it's a old mill house on a little stream with a pond and lots of nature and animals and things that I love. But I just miss the Australian light and character and humour and the kind of piss-taking way we are with each other, because you don't get that in New England at all. You have to chip through the frost a little bit.
It's bittersweet living away from home, isn't it? Because you're living a lived experience, but you're always yearning for what you had, isn't it? It's
well,
like that.
yeah, and also, I'm Australian down to the thong calluses between my toes, and that won't change no matter how long I'm away.
How long have you been away?
It's a good question. It's hard to answer because for many years, when we just had the one son and when he was in primary school, we were able to oscillate. So we came back here for half the year. And he had basically 2 sets of friends and 2 homes. But then we adopted a second child, and he hit year 7, and all his friends then scattered to various high schools, and we couldn't do it anymore.
It's too unsettling. Yeah. Okay, Nicole, when you started writing, did you just start or did you plan everything out?
So I'm not sure if she means for one particular book or when I started. So I started as a journalist. So you write every day, basically, and you get very unprecious about writing. You have to produce because, you can't wait for your aura to be on straight. The desk will not accept that.
I'll wait for it to come.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't file that piece. I didn't have any inspiration. No, you have to write every day. So that was a really good training. And so I really believed in writing every day, and it's not going to be good every day. Most days it's going to be really, really crappy, but you've got something to work with.
I went to an event the other night, Jonathan Franzen, and this surprised me. He said he writes linear. He writes from the beginning to the end. Do you do that, or do you?
Sort of mostly, but I always leave the hardest thing till last, which is very depressing. Because if there's something that you can't quite resolve, it's easy to put it off and then come back to it.
And so you write round it.
Yeah, and then at the end of the book, you've got the thing to deal with. But because Horse is like a braided narrative and it's set in 3 time periods, it wasn't written linearly, because I wasn't sure until quite late in the process how the different sections were going to fit together, and it was only through writing it that I gradually learned how they would fit together. So I was writing a bit of this and a bit of that. Yeah.
Okay, so there's some lovely accolades here. Barb says, so great to have the lovely Geraldine on. It is so special. We are absolutely stoked in this office. Honestly, it is. It's like having a rock star here. Carol,
you wouldn't say that if you heard me sing.
No,
I can't hold a note.
Well, we're more readers, so that's fine. You're forgiven. Carol said, I read Horse and absolutely loved it and look forward to reading your next book. Pat says, welcome back. I would love to know if you find yourself still subconsciously researching for more detail for all the books you've already published. That's a good question, isn't it?
It is a good question, and it's. I have to tell you, it's a little bit galling when you find out something that would have been great in the book. And my late husband, was really good at this because he is such a historian and he lives in archives when he's working on his projects. And sometimes he'll come in and drop something on my desk and go, I know something you don't know, wish you knew.
And is that after the book's gone to the printer?
It's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, he gave me a lot of things that did end up in books, but a couple of times, and it's like, darn, that would have been so great to know.
Yeah, but you could do that forever, couldn't you?
You could.
Yeah, you have to stop at some point.
The thing that is perhaps my greatest regret in terms of leaving something out is with People of the Book. And that's the one about the actually existing Hebrew manuscript, the Sarajevo Haggadah, and it's got sections of times when the book survived great catastrophe, and from the Spanish Inquisition right through to the war in Bosnia, and I was at an event and somebody said, you never actually have the book being used as it was intended at a Jewish family Passover table. And I think,
Oh, yeah, wow.
the Seder vergessen. And I should have had it, it would have been great, because that was the truth of most Jewish life, is that people just lived their lives. It was, something that we were talking about with Lebanon, people are living their lives. And it would have been a great chapter for this book. So I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll forgive you. Lisa, how important are editors for your work?
I'd say very important, but not the ones that you might think. I mean, I have a lovely editor and I've worked with him a lot, but he doesn't see it until I'm satisfied with it. So I have a great Australian friend, Graham Thorburn, whose background is in film, and he is, I would say, my most essential editor. And he sees things at an early stage, and he's able to see connections and structure in a way that I think people who make film do, and it's incredibly useful. And he's giving me
it's like a bird's eye view, isn't it? That you need somebody to kind of take, because you're in it, and then you need someone to look over it from this angle and then work it out. Is that what he does for you?
He's got an unbelievable sense of structure.
Yeah. Susan said, I'm reading Horse now. It's a novel full of life and energy. I loved how you connected the different storylines. I read it as short stories. I also read it like watching a movie. I hope it becomes a movie. I love the Jackson Pollock story. Any possibility you'll make it into a novel?
Into a movie.
A movie, sorry.
Yeah, your mouth to God's ear. I don't get involved in that side of things, but I can tell you that all my books have been optioned, and some of them many times. I can't tell you how many times Year of Wonders has been optioned, and it's optioned right now, but I haven't seen any of them. So I won't believe it till I'm sitting in a dark theatre and see based on the book by.
And I think that's kind of a world on its own. Jel says, lovely to see. Geraldine, listening to Horse at the moment or in audio. The audiobook is fantastic with different narrations from time periods of the novel. Love the way that the time periods blend seamlessly into one another. Sally says that you're better than a rock star. I agree with you, Sally. Linda, do you have another book idea you're exploring or working on at the moment? I am always greedy for your next book. I love that, Linda.
That's lovely.
It is.
I do have an idea for my next novel, but there's a nonfiction project that I want to try first. So I'm not talking about what the next novel is, because if the nonfiction project works out, that'll take me about a year or so.
How long does it take between each book?
Oh, it's really difficult to say. Horse took a long time, but, partly because of the difficulty of the material, but also because I had a personal catastrophe with my husband dying in the middle of it. And also I blamed Donald Trump because I blamed him for everything. And it was like waking up every morning to a jackhammer. It was so distracting having
awful
him in power. And
it was terrible.
I could not finish the book until Biden was inaugurated.
It's really, and did you feel when he was inaugurated that there was, I felt this relief and this kind of inner peace. Did you feel that?
It's past that feeling because he looks so frail now, and I'm really, really worried because the state of the country is so dire, and it's not his fault, but it's an incredibly demanding job, and it's aging him so fast, and it's just scary to me because I don't think he's got a deep bench behind him.
No, I agree. Okay, Linda says, I love the book and the Year of Wonders. Denise says, People of the Book is my favourite. It's a great journey for the senses. What have we got? Do you pay any attention to reviews? Is Jill's question.
Yes, if I get a shellacking, I reach for an adult beverage and go back to bed. I think I don't believe people who say they don't read their reviews, and if you really don't read them, then you're an arrogant son of a bitch, because there's things to be learned. I'm interested in criticism, provided it's not that kind of like, oh my God, turgid academic criticism where they're poking in like they've chained the novel to the wall and they're thrashing out.
And also, that's about them. I think most of the time it's about them showing us how intelligent they are, rather than the work that they're reviewing.
It's often about the book they wish you'd written.
Yes.
About post-colonial whatnot.
Yeah.
Anyway, it shouldn't be too tough. Everybody's got to make a living.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I used to always wonder why authors were so sensitive to reviews. Like, oh God, whatever. And then we watched a podcast, which you and I have just recorded one, and of course people review those. Well, I think when I got my first bad review on the podcast, I couldn't get out of bed for a whole day. I mean, I took it that personally. I'm much better with it now, and mostly we get good reviews, but it's hard.
Well, there's so many trolls out there.
Yeah,
and
haters.
And also it's so superficial, because if you ever push back a little, like a tiny fingertip back, saying sorry you feel that way, and then they come back and they're so nice because they don't actually think there's a real person there.
That's exactly right. Okay. Janine says, love your writing. Which authors inspire you? I love that. That's a great question.
Yeah, well, it's a long list, and it inspired me in so many different ways. If I had to say who is the pinnacle of doing what I aspire to do, that would be Hilary Mantel.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think watching her produce the Wolf Hall trilogy was watching a classic being produced in real time. It's so exciting to me.
Twice Booker Prize or 3 times?
Twice
Booker
Prize. She was robbed the 3rd time.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
and then there are writers who are not doing what I do, but are doing something that I admire immensely, like Richard Powers' The Overstory. Just made me look at the natural world with a whole fresh vision. I love that book so much.
Any Australians?
Oh, yeah, so many. I love Helen Garner for her intense observation. The late, great, lamented Frank Morehouse for his Aussie wit and insight, and Tim Winton, exquisite. Right.
I'm glad you brought Tim Winton up, because I am recording a podcast with Tim on Friday. They've rejacketed the entire backlist. Okay. So,
and then a recent book that I read that I loved immensely, Sorrow and Bliss.
Oh, lovely. We love her. Who's the author of Sorrow and Bliss? Meg Mason. Yeah. Meg and I often have a drink together in Glebe, and she's a beautiful writer, and it got wonderful international acclaim, didn't it?
Yes, and deservedly so. And then Melina Marchetta.
Melina Marchetta, yeah. Well, I walk with her. Yes, we go for walks. I am lucky.
I'll have to come home and join these walks.
Yeah, you'll just have to come home and hang with us. That's fine. Susan said, my favourite book of all time is The People of the Book. Julia says, we all blame Donald Trump for everything. Okay, that's great.
And we have to blame Murdoch as well.
Yeah. Linda says, thank you for your books, Ms. Brooks. I read your books and those by Sarah Waters. They're my favourites, and greetings from Toronto, Canada.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
thanks
lovely.
for joining us. It must be a weird hour there.
It must be. Okay, this is it from us. Thank you to Geraldine so much. We have loved having you here. So we've also recorded a podcast with Geraldine. If you have missed this segment live, you can always go back and rewatch it. Thank you for joining us today, and wasn't she worth it?